to another episode of We Don't Die. I'm your host, Sandra Champlain, author of the international best-selling book called We Don't Die, A Skeptic's Discovery of Life After Death. Our guest today is Rosemary Ellen Guiley, who is a leading expert in the metaphysical and paranormal fields with more than 65 books published on a wide range of topics, including 9 single-volume encyclopedias and reference works. Her work is part of her spiritual journey, probing into the unknown, the other side, and other dimensions in her search for truth. She has worked full-time in this field for 35 years. Now, Rosemary keeps a busy schedule. In addition to her own research and writing and TV and radio appearances, she travels lecturing. She's a certified hypnotist and runs her own publishing and productions company called Visionary Living Incorporated. I found out about Rosemary as she's also one of the speakers at the upcoming Afterlife Symposium in Scottsdale, Arizona, and she'll be doing a workshop on Black Mirror Scrying, which is a way to connect with our loved ones in the afterlife. Her website is visionaryliving.com, and I think we're all going to be interested in what Rosemary has to say today and learn some new things. Rosemary Ellen Guiley, a warm welcome to We Don't Die Radio.
Sandra, it's such a pleasure to talk with you today.
I'm thrilled. If you could see me sitting here, I've got a big smile on my face like I'm about to unwrap a Christmas present. I love meeting new people, especially with new things to share for all of us and, to make a difference in people's lives. So if you would you tell us some about you and maybe where you're from and how you got into this wonderful field of so much?
It's fascinating. It's been a lifelong journey, and I've been very privileged to have my personal spiritual journey be part of my professional journey as well. I've had a lifelong interest in these topics. From a very early age, I also was a writer. As soon as I could make letters with a crayon or a pencil, I was writing something. And for me, the mysteries of the unknown always pulled me. I did have an influence from family. My mother was a prolific psychic dreamer, and she had other experiences as well. My mother, my older sister, and I all had our own interactions with the unseen realms that were unique to each of us. But my mother especially had a lot of precognitive dreams. And some of them, of course, were unsettling dreams because they dealt with forewarnings of deaths of people she knew. And I was in my tween years when Mom started sharing a lot of these dreams with me and her anxieties about them. Now, to me, the idea that we could dream the future, any future, in a reliable way just fascinated me.
Sure.
And I started turning more attention to dreams. I got books on dreams. I started keeping a dream journal. Over the course of the next few years, I had done pretty much a self-study course in how to project astrally in dreams, visit distant locations, send and receive messages with friends, and what we would call today remote view places with some accuracy. I had enough successes that it convinced me that dreams were absolutely amazing. They were amazing mechanisms that reached beyond time and space into afterlife, into past lives. And of course, the more I learned about dreams, the most important aspect of them all is that they tell us so much about ourselves, and they reflect to us the truth of how we feel we're really doing in life. And they point out imbalances and also give us the solutions to our problems if we pay attention to them.
Interesting.
So that triggered a lot of interest that then started spreading. I was already interested in ghosts and mysterious creatures, aliens, UFOs. So I've had kind of a Jill of all trades, what I now call the Renaissance woman. And I think that people who are researchers in these fields, metaphysical and paranormal, we have to be Renaissance men and women today. We have to have working knowledges across a broad range of topics in order to really be effective and understand the focus of our studies. Mm-hmm. So that that's what really launched me on this path. I got into divination. I studied the tarot. I studied energy healing. I became a paranormal investigator. I started pursuing studies in the afterlife and reincarnation. And the other end of the spectrum, entity contact experiences of all kinds and how people are changed by them, for better or for worse. All these things tie together. And underneath it all has been this underpinning of dreams. And I became a dream facilitator. I started doing lay dream work for individuals and groups. I took a lot of Jungian courses at the Jung Center in New York City on dreams and the psychology of dreams. And dreams are still very important to me as a compass that we can use to orient ourselves. Now, Sandra, over the course of time in studying dreams and in talking to people about their dreams, I collected quite a few accounts of people who had had contact with the dead. And even though the experiences seemed to be part of dreams, like lucid dreams, or they had dreamlike qualities to them, people were convinced that they had had actual, real, even physical contact with departed loved ones. And they wanted to know, is this so? Because many therapists will tell people, oh, it's just wish fulfillment. No, it didn't really happen. It just seemed like it did.
Right.
So I started studying dream visits from the dead. And of course, since I considered dreams a pathway to other realities, it made perfect sense to me that they could be a bridge between the afterlife and the world of the living, where we can have these literally reunions. So that's kind of the background that paved the way for things concerning dreams and the afterlife. And then, another offshoot of that was the Black Mirror as another way to have contact.
And I know nothing about the Black Mirror. And when I saw that you'll be at the symposium and giving the workshop on Sunday? Yes, I think so.
Sunday, I have one on Thursday pre-conference, and then I have one on Sunday post-conference. And then during the conference, I will be giving a presentation on dream visits from the dead. The Black Mirror is a wonderful tool for a variety of purposes. And through my work in the paranormal and studying occultism, I was familiar with the use of black mirrors. They've been used throughout history for divination and for magical purposes, for seeing into the future and into the past. But it was in the 1990s when I read Dr. Raymond Moody's book, Reunions, that I was just galvanized to employ them as a tool for contacting the dead. And I had studied a lot of mythology. Like Dr. Moody, I was familiar with the ancient Greeks and their techniques for using dark places and dark surfaces as a way of contacting the dead. And when I read his book about the use of the Black Mirror, and I already had a Black Mirror, and I used it for psychic development. It's a wonderful tool for sharpening up your psychic faculties. I thought this is really something that can benefit people. And Dr. Moody had coined the term psychomantium, place of the spirit, a place where you would go in a dimly lit room to gaze into a mirror that had a black surface instead of a silver surface, with the intention of evoking contact with the dead. And he had worked with hundreds of volunteers to refine this process. Well, I contacted Dr. Moody, and I went down to Alabama to his home to have my own psychomantium experience with him. And it was an amazing journey. We did a lot of intention setting, like what was my purpose for being there? Who did I want to contact? Dr. Moody would ask, well, tell me about your relationship and what worked about it and what didn't. And then I had my time in the psychomantium, which was a converted walk-in closet with a giant black mirror in it.
Wow.
And it was such a powerful experience. So after that, then I took some training from Dr. Moody. He offered mirror facilitation classes for people who wanted to use the Black Mirror to help other people in whatever purpose. So I took his training class. Now, I'm not a licensed psychotherapist, so I was not using it in that way. I've always used things as a lay facilitator.
Yes.
And so I started doing workshops in the Black Mirror as a way to contact the dead. And I experimented a lot with myself to refine techniques that I wanted to use for induction, for helping people to visualize, to hear, to feel, to sense, and then helping them process that on the outcome after they literally came back out of the mirror. And over the years, I've been doing these for quite a few years now. They've been quite successful. People have had astounding experiences, even beginners who've never meditated, never had done any psychic development work. Even beginners can have profound experiences in the mirror. So one of the things that was an obstacle was supply of mirrors. And I couldn't find a good commercial supply of mirrors. So my husband and I started making them.
Good for you. I looked online for Black Mirrors once I heard your topic. I'm like, where do you get one?
You can buy, like little discs of like blackened glass, but I wanted something that evoked a feeling, an atmosphere. I wanted a nice frame, the setting of the room. I go to great lengths as much as I can in any given setting. I do these in private homes and hotels and back rooms of bookshops and places like that. But so we have for our workshop, and we will have these in Scottsdale as well. In fact, several years ago, I did a couple of Black Mirror workshops for this same event, and they were very successful for people. So I'm really looking forward to coming back and doing them again. But my husband Joe and we have several dozen what we call class mirrors. And these are simple framed, black frames, black mirrors, lightweight, that we can easily take from location to location so that people don't have to buy a mirror in order to have the experience. Try it out. See if it's for you. And we energize them and cleanse them for every session. And we also sell black mirrors that are more ornate. And so if people are so inclined and they want to have their own black mirror, we have a supply of them. And the mirrors come with a guidebook that I've written as well. So this has been one of my most, I would say, rewarding events. And for me, when I put together a workshop or a lecture, I wanted to bring information and techniques to people that are going to enhance something for them, to something new, something they can use, tools, expand their awareness. And the Black Mirror has been one of the most rewarding experiences. Along the way, Sandra, we've had phenomena that have occurred in the scrying room. Scrying is an old term. It's an old English term, by the way, that means to discern dimly.
Okay.
And I opted to use the term scrying as opposed to gazing because it evokes something mysterious.
Yes.
But it's not unusual. It doesn't happen every time, but it's not unusual for visitors. I mean, the mirror work literally attracts visitors. It attracts spirit helpers, angels, spirit guides. It attracts the dead who are called in by the people who are using the mirrors. For some people, it's going to be an intensely private experience that only they have. And sometimes these phenomena break out in the room. And other people, multiple people will experience them. We've had footsteps. We've had the sounds of drumming, chanting, Gregorian chant, choir singing. We've had gods, goddesses, and angels manifest in the room. We've had people feeling like they were touched or hugged on their shoulders. they're convinced it's me walking around the room if they have their eyes closed, and I don't walk around the room when people are in the mirror.
Right.
So it can be a quite a phenomenal experience.
Can you walk us through, Rosemary? Well, let me just back up a little for our listener. If you don't know what we're talking about as far as this symposium, in September 13th through 16th, 2018, in Scottsdale, Arizona, there will be 33 afterlife experts and people talking about grief and living a powerful life. And we're all under one roof for a long weekend. And it's a great conference that you can attend to learn so much. And Rosemary is one of the speakers, as am I. But we welcome you to go to afterlifesymposium.org to find out more, if this is something that should interest you. And, but Rosemary, if you wouldn't mind, just walk us through a little bit, like when someone, well, do you do a induction to, you're talking to everybody, like what it would look like. And then maybe if you could give us some stories of just some of the things that have happened. So like, title of the show is We Don't Die. Maybe people who got reconnected or something. Could you do that?
Sure. At the beginning, I talk just a little bit about what a black mirror is, what its history is as a dark scrying surface, why it's so powerful. And I have a conditioning session where I have people hold the mirror and give them some techniques for energizing the mirror. First, we clear the surface of the mirror. Even though I've already cleared and energized the mirrors in general, I think it's important for people to put their own energy into the mirror. And so we go through some exercises where we clear the surface of the mirror using energy from our hands and channeling it from the divine source of all being. And we energize the mirror. And then I have them practice looking into the mirror and evoking things. And I give them instructions for doing specifics, to think of something in their mind and then look into the mirror and experience it in the mirror. Now, the experience that an individual person has is going to vary person by person. And, excuse me. For some people, all the action is going to be in the mirror. They are able to see things in the mirror. They might hear sounds. They might feel presences around them, but the mirror seems to be the source of all of that. For other people, it's all going to be in their heads. There's something about the mirror that turns the switch on psychically, and then all the action takes place on the inner screen. And for other people, it's going to be a bounce between the two. The two will work in conjunction with each other. So people need to be prepared for what to expect. I don't try to tell people what they're going to see, but that these are ways that you're going to experience things, so pay attention to everything. And then I have a guided meditation to relax people, and we treat the mirror as a doorway to a bridge between the afterlife and the world of the living. And so I take people into this bridge, and then once they are in the mirror, so to speak, the journey becomes their private journey. And that lasts for anywhere from 20 to 30 minutes. People get fatigued. The psychic eye gets fatigued, especially if people haven't worked it much. And so I just kind of gauge the energy in the room as time goes by. And then I bring people back out of the mirror, recenter them in the body, and invite discussion. And it's really wonderful when people feel comfortable about speaking up. And people have the customary reaction of like, well, this happened to me, but if I talk about it, everybody's going to think I'm crazy.
That's right. Yeah.
It's an automatic reaction.
I know that feeling. Yes.
But if they do, there are probably other people in the room who've had similar experiences. And then they pipe up. So it's very validating. And for some people, the experience is very intense and involves multiple sensory phenomena. People do not automatically contact the person they set out to contact. And Dr. Moody discusses this in reunions as well. That, for example, we can set an intention. Let's say we want to see our deceased father, and we can set an intention to see Dad. But maybe it's someone else who comes forward, and it's purposeful, that there's something else that we need to deal with, or a message needs to be given. The wonderful thing about the mirror experience is that it has what I call an afterglow, and it often opens the doorway to meaningful dreams, sometimes encounter dreams, to inspirations, waking visions, and other experiences that start to flesh things out. So no matter what happens in the mirror, it's meaningful. So I've had people describe, for example, I can think of one gentleman who contacted an uncle who had died in World War II. And he could see this man's face in considerable detail. They carried on a mental conversation. He could hear other sounds related to World War II. In the environment, he felt physical presence of his uncle in the room as though he were standing there. And it was an intense emotional experience for him. The one experience where we had the sound of drumming in the room, this was in a big conference center. It was like a convention center. And we were in one of the meeting rooms, and I had everybody sit up front in the room. This was a long rectangular room. I had everybody sit up front. And all the light, I mentioned this for a reason, all the light switches to the room were way in the back by the door. So I had just gotten people started on their personal journey into the mirror, and we had the lights dimmed. And all of a sudden, the lights came on full force, as though someone had flipped all the switches.
Wild.
And so I just told everybody, hold the energy, continue your journey. And I went to the back of the room and I redimmed the lights. And I came back up to my chair in the front of the room. And what I try to do during the personal journey is hold space, that I'm in a meditative state too. And I play, I like to play 432 hertz music in the background, which is very conducive to good meditative states. And I became aware of this very faint drumming sound, and it seemed to emanate from one corner of the room, and it got louder and louder. Now, I didn't say anything because you don't want to break people's concentrations, but it sounded like someone was sitting in the corner of the room doing Native American drumming. So at the end of the session where we're talking, I mentioned that I had heard this drumming. I said, did anyone else hear that? And quite a few of the people in the class did. Well, there was a Native American woman sitting up front near that corner, and she piped up and said that the purpose of her journey in the mirror was to reconnect with her shaman, her teacher, who had passed on. And we all felt that the drumming was part of that experience. It was clearly Native American, and she was the only Native American person in the room. And she had done this kind of shamanic journey into the mirror. We've had visual apparitions of gods and angels. Goddesses stand in the room. People have seen them. We've had angelic presences on quite a few occasions where people will often close their eyes. They open their eyes and look into the mirror and then close their eyes and go within. And people have often seen these pillars of light manifest in the room, which they feel are angels. And And I feel that the angelic presence is with us too. We set a sacred circle before we start. We invoke the presence of benevolent beings and guides and helpers to be within that sacred circle. And they do come. We've had Celtic gods and goddesses show up, and they seem to have personal connections for some of the participants in the room, that they're meaningful to them. So it can be quite an amazing journey. Now, some people don't seem to have much of an experience, or they think they don't. They look into the mirror, they have a hard time focusing, their mind wanders, and they look into the mirror and maybe they just see things like shots of light going across the mirror, or the mirror gets kind of cloudy or milky, but nothing else happens. And that's still a significant experience, because when you can see shifts like that in the mirror, it's the opening of the astral plane. So it's like getting your toe in the water.
And I love it.
What I tell people is that, well, you probably had more of an experience than you realize if you think back over some of the things that maybe came into your mental screen and thoughts during that process. But you got the door open. And so tonight when you go to sleep, ask for more information, ask for something else to be shown to you. And many people find that they do have what I call this afterglow, that something else occurs. And it was the mirror really that opened the doorway for it.
I would think, Rosemary, that it's like building a muscle too. Once you realize that this is real, we just can't become a bodybuilder overnight. We have to practice, and I get this instinct, especially, I've dabbled in different things as well, not nearly as much as you have, but I really believe that there's this energetic world that's happening all around us and we just can't see it. And a lot of people say it's the veil or whatever, but by scrying with the Black Mirror, it just starts opening that up, and starts opening that faculty within us. And I can see with more and more practice, just the sky's the limit. And I'm so excited that you're sharing right now, because like I said, this is something I didn't even know existed, but what an awesome, awesome tool.
It is an awesome tool. I consider it to be incredibly powerful.
Yes.
And it has multiple purposes. I mean, not only can you use it as a bridge to the afterlife, you can ask for information about your past lives. You can look into the future. You can visit the Akashic records. The use of the mirror sharpens your psychic faculty, because you're using your psychic senses while you're employing it. You can work with a partner. You can use it in a group. I have paranormal investigators who take one of my Black Mirrors with them on many investigations. And most groups have a sensitive or a psychic medium that's part of the team. And this person will often use the mirror as another tool for getting information. I've used it in seance circles. Last fall, I was at the Omni Springs Resort in Bedford, Pennsylvania, a gorgeous facility that has a lot of Victorian era residual ghosts in it. And so I was participating in a day-long seminar of ghost investigations, lectures, and then one night we did a seance. And we had a number of tools we were working with. But at one point in the seance, and we're all sitting around a very large table, we put one of my Black Mirrors in the middle as a focal point. And I asked everybody to put their energy into the mirror to help the manifestation of whoever needed to speak. Now, there were two of us who were like the principal, I guess you would say, the mediums in that, myself and another woman. And then there were some participants also that had very good mediumistic ability that started speaking up. But we gave our impressions as we got them. We made contact with people whose names and personalities and personal histories were verified by others present. Messages were given, and this was all videotaped. And at one point in the seance, I could literally see kind of like a mist coming out of the mirror, clairvoyantly. And a few others saw it as well. This was captured on the camera. It wasn't captured as a mist coming out of the mirror, but something unusual going on the mirror surface itself.
Wow.
And it was uncanny corroboration of the power of this instrument.
Wow. Rosemary, I want to ask too, a lot of my listeners, a lot of the people attending this symposium are people that have lost a loved one, even though they're not lost, they're lost to us in the flesh. Do you notice a difference from the participants who walk in to one of your workshops and who they are walking out? Is there more joy? Is there a state of wonder? What do you notice is the difference that these workshops make in people's lives?
Overall, a positive effect. I mean, there are a few people who, they don't feel they've had much of an experience, and it's kind of like, well, that was interesting. You're always going to get a few of those, but for the majority, it's a powerful experience. And some people come in, they believe in the afterlife. They're looking for a particular contact. They want validation. The mirror gives them validation in the reality of survival. And then other people come that they're not certain if there is such a thing. They would hope that there is, but they're not certain. And so the mirror gives them evidence that's very convincing to them. It can be a very emotional experience, of course, as you can imagine. Tears, people being, just kind of overcome emotionally. I do tell people, I've never had anyone literally become overcome, but I tell people that if the experience gets to be too intense, just pull yourself back. Just imagine that you are pulling back from the energetic link and center yourself in your chair. You're free to get up and go out quietly if you feel it's necessary. I've never had anyone do that. But at any point, you can pull back from the experience because you are in control of it. And that's something that beginners especially want to know. Is this going to be something that's out of my control?
You've got a fun ring.
Oh, gosh. Sorry about that. I hope you can edit it out. I totally forgot
it's okay.
my cell phone off before we started.
We had an interview, Rosemary, that the guest had a big dog underneath the desk where she was talking from, and the dog fell asleep, and all you could hear was this loud snore. But you know what? I left it on there because this is what makes us human.
Oh, that's too much. I love it.
Yeah. But I think with scrying, like for me, you're giving me a taste of something that I didn't even know existed. And I know, this pretty simple example, but years ago in the world of running, no one had ever run a 4-minute mile. It was just impossible. And then lo and behold, I don't know what year it was. Oh, and sometime in the 50s, Roger Bannister ran the first 4-minute mile. And then after that, everybody could run a 4-minute mile. I think there's something about learning new things and getting our mind to believe it's possible. And once we have that inner belief, suddenly I think miracles can occur, strange synchronicities, wonderful synchronicities, opening up to scrying and having an experience. It's like, wow, what else is possible? So I absolutely love that you're doing this. And so this is like a Christmas present for me.
And me too. There is one other thing I like to address, Sandra, about the control aspect of it. And that's a small number of people, especially people who've been watching too many paranormal reality shows. They want to know if there's any danger involved. Are they going to see anything bad in the mirror? Will something bad come through the mirror? And, anytime you open the doorway to the spirit realms, there are things out there. Let's be realistic about it. But what you bring to the experience is going to shape the experience. And as I mentioned earlier, we set a sacred circle to invite only the benevolent, positive experiences, the loved ones, the spirit guides, the angels, the spirit masters. We only invite those to be present, to witness and participate, and all other influences are to stay out. I've never had anyone say they've had a bad experience in the mirror. The worst is people feel nothing happens for them in the mirror, or very little. But I have told some people that they should not use the mirror because they seem so fearful of it. They are so almost convinced of themselves that if they use this, it's going to be the doorway to something that's going to be scary. Mm-hmm. And I tell people that this is not the tool for them, at least at this point, because when you come to the mirror, a very powerful psychic tool, you need to be in a positive state of mind, and you need to be ready to work. And if you bring fear to it, as we know, like attracts like. And if you bring fear to any situation, whether it's a paranormal investigation, a mediumistic seance, a Black Mirror, using the pendulum, whatever, you're going to get back what you fear. So that's an important element for some people. Very small number of people are concerned that way. It's a legitimate question. I probably would ask it myself if I knew nothing about it. But this is a very powerful psychic tool, and people need to know that. I have preached meditation for all of my professional life because I've been a meditator for most of my adult life. And that is the best way to prepare yourself to limber up those psychic muscles. You talked about working muscles. It's like going to the psychic gym. If you meditate even for a few minutes every day, you're going to fertilize the field for more effective results no matter what tool you use.
And by meditation, do you mean letting the thoughts go and maybe concentrating on our breath?
Yes. And I've been, I've studied various kinds of meditation. I've studied Eastern meditation. I got very involved in Zen meditation many years ago, and also active Western meditation. And so I think that I use a variety of techniques. Sometimes I use meditation to just clear and center, to try and empty as much out as I can. And other times I use what would be called Western active meditation, where I set an intention for something, use the meditative state to set an intention. And intention setting needs to be at as high a level as possible. It's not for material things, it's for spiritual things. And so the goal needs to be on, a much higher level. So I use a combination of those. And some people think that they can't possibly clear their minds. Well, you would have to be a very adept meditator to completely clear your mind, to get into one of those, higher states.
Mm-hmm. That's good to hear.
And Zen recognizes that. Zen has many techniques for the arising of thoughts. And in Zen, thoughts are going to arise. That's the way the mind works. And when distracting thoughts arise, here's how you let them go. And so I go through that actually in the preparation for working with the Black Mirror, is that we're not going to be able to maintain 100% focus every single minute, but there are ways to refocus.
Right, recenter yourself. I'm so excited about this personally, and my dad used to have a great expression: if in doubt, don't. So if you're listening to this and it's just not your kind of thing, that's fine. But if it is, bring to it the excitement, bring to it love, bring to it intention, bring to it like this is going to be a fabulous experience. With the unknown is okay, and it may not be something that you get this great aha visualization or anything, but the person next to you might get that reconnection. It's just, I think if we bring to it wonder, so many things are possible, and love.
Absolutely. And of course, the group energy is very important too, because while we are in this sacred circle, we are forming a group energy and a group mind. And that's one reason why I take some time up front to do some conditioning and to get people relaxed and expecting something positive to come out of this.
Great. Rosemary, would you mind if we touched on dreams a little bit before we end the interview? And we still have some time, but it's, I'm really excited that that's what you're going to be speaking on during the symposium. And dreams can be all over the place, but I've had so many people ask me, I had this really vivid dream of my grandmother. Does that mean she's there? And yeah, if you could just touch on the dream world a little. And have you written a book on dreams?
Yes, I have a book called Dream Messages from the Afterlife, Visits from
Beautiful.
the Dead.
Okay.
And then in terms of the Black Mirror, I have the guidebook for it. It's called The Art of Black Mirror Scrying. But Dream Messages from the Afterlife talks about, makes the case for how the dead visit us in dreams, why dreams are one of the most common mediums for the manifestation of someone who's passed on. And this tradition goes back into ancient times. And I focus again on the Greeks and also the Egyptians. And I focus on Western culture because that's our heritage, even though these kinds of dreams exist globally. But since ancient times, people have viewed the dream as a way to have access to the spirit world, including the dead. And some of those attitudes have shifted over time, understandably. But if the dead are going to be able to visit us, it's more likely to happen in a dream than any other way. People can have waking visitations. Bill and Judy Guggenheim, who wrote the bestseller Hello from Heaven,
Yes.
Years ago, they cataloged 12 ways that the dead are likely to make themselves known, and 2 of them involve dreams. So there are other ways, too, that we can experience the presence, but the dream is especially powerful because it becomes a real experience within the framework of dreaming consciousness. People can have physical sensation. They will hug, kiss, touch the deceased person. Communication is telepathic. It's not verbal. They have a sense of physical presence, that they're in an environment that is real but not real, if that makes any sense. And the dreams have a purpose. It's to deliver a message or a reassurance. They're usually fairly short. And in fact, quite interestingly, sometimes the dead will comment, I haven't got much time, so here's what I have to say. Or that it takes a lot of energy to get one of these bridges together, and it doesn't last long. And there seems to be something that has to happen on our side as well as the other side. Not everybody's going to have one of these dreams, no matter how badly you want one. Mm-hmm. They involve circumstances of spiritual frequencies, energy, consciousness, conditions on the other side that we may not have any inkling of. It has to be the right combination. And in fact, I've had examples of people who've used proxies because they can't get through to the person they would like to because of, as one dead woman said, because of the way he dreams, I can't get through to him, so I'm coming to you. Please give him the message.
Oh, that's funny.
And I call that proxy dreaming.
Okay. But
most of these dreams are for reassurance. The dead want us to know that they're still here. You know, they didn't go into oblivion. They are still who they were, who they are. There is an afterlife. They're well. And they will often say things like, please don't worry about me. Please don't grieve. We're going to grieve anyway. That's just part of the human process, but they want to reassure us that they are not lost to us.
Beautiful. Thank you. Now, there's some questions I should be asking you that I haven't, and I'd love to know more about your website, and I know you have a newsletter that you do, and to brag about yourself for a couple minutes.
Well, my personal website is visionaryliving.com, and you can sign up for my newsletter there. I'm just getting the June newsletter together now. It goes out usually the first week of every month. I have a calendar of my events there, and I have a blog and articles that I've posted. I also have another website, and from Visionary Living, you can also jump to that website or go straight there to my publishing website, visionarylivingpublishing.com. And that includes all of the books that my company has published. It's got descriptions of the books, the authors, and also hot links for if you want to get copies.
Beautiful. And for our listener, if you're listening on YouTube or iTunes, in the description of this episode, I have live links that you can click on to visit Rosemary's sites and the books and the symposium and the workshop. I'm so excited that we spoke today.
Well, I appreciate the opportunity, especially to acquaint people with something like the Black Mirror process.
Yes.
And I'm looking forward to the Afterlife Conference in September in Scottsdale. I've presented there twice before. It's an absolutely fabulous event. People from all over the world, including a lot of people in alternative healthcare and traditional healthcare, psychotherapy, after-death studies. It's an incredible mix of people. And some very talented mediums are going to be there as well.
Yes. Yes. And I find, when I first started on my adventure of searching for proof of the afterlife, I didn't want to be one of those people, those too out there people, and I think it was just fear in the beginning. And come to find out, especially being part of the AREI, the Afterlife Research and Education Institute, you have doctors and scientists and, you got the psychics and mystics and just everybody together. And everybody's very real. Everybody's very normal. And, and I usually travel by myself to these things, and I leave with, hundreds of new friends. And it's so empowering for my life to have people that I can share this with. That's why I love talking to people on this show. And I love the listeners too, because we're building up these new friendships. Because, in my personal life, I don't have too many people that speak this language. Some people look at me a little strange for what I do. So the symposium is just a great place. I can't say enough good things about the people who run it and the people who attend it. So for our listener, afterlifesymposium.org to find out more. And if you are somebody who can't make it, we totally understand, but check out the website anyways, because you can see who some of these speakers are and some of the workshops being given, and your mind will be opened up to so many more things that are happening to really give you that comfort that we don't die. Your life is for a purpose. Your loved ones are still there. You're going to be reunited with them again. And there are these tools that can enrich your life and even possibly make contact. Oh, Rosemary, thank you so much for being our guest today.
Sandra, thank you for this opportunity to have a wonderful discussion with you, and certainly look forward to seeing you in Scottsdale in September.
Yes, I'll give you a big hug, and I'm looking forward to getting my Black Mirror and your book before I even get there, and limbering up that psychic muscle, because I just think that's a great thing. Just a great thing. And for our listener, thank you so much for being here with Rosemary Ellen Guiley and myself today. And as a reminder, our home base for this show is WeDon'tDieRadio.com, where there's over 265 episodes now, and some just from all kinds of people about talking about the afterlife and living life and help and support through grief, because I know that's something that brings many of us here together. I have a very free audio there called How to Survive Grief. It says a few chapters of my book, We Don't Die, but here's the secret. It's the whole book. And then I wrote a short PDF called My 19 Reasons to Believe in the Afterlife. So my name is Sandra Champlain, and a big thank you for listening today. As always, I am so delighted to be your host on We Don't Die Radio. A reminder that Rosemary's website is visionaryliving.com and visionarylivingpublishing.com. I do believe with all my heart that life is an education for the soul and that your life here on earth is important. So we never know what new things we can learn and do, but hearing about Black Mirror Scrying and dream visitations is all so exciting. So there's more to life than meets the eye, and there's more to you than you know. So a warm thank you for listening, and we'll see you soon.